appeals court temporarily reinstated Donald Trump's tariffs after a federal trade court had blocked them a day prior.
Hamas is reviewing the latest US proposal for a new Gaza ceasefire deal. The report suggests they may reject it. Evacuations continue following the collapse of a glacier in Switzerland's southern Lurchental Valley.
A federal appeals court temporarily reinstated US President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs after a federal trade court had blocked them a day earlier. Trump had invoked an emergency powers law to impose import taxes from almost every country in the world. A federal trade court ruled that Trump overstepped his presidential authority to impose such broad levies under the law. Trump's administration had appealed the decision, and a court of appeals have now granted an emergency motion and temporarily halted the order from the trade court. The decision provides the White House with additional time to defend the legality of the president's efforts to reshape global trade relations.
Hamas has said it's reviewing the latest US proposal for a new Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal, though reports suggest the Palestinian armed group may reject it. It comes after the White House said Israel has accepted the proposal, which would include a 60-day halt in fighting, the release of 28 hostages in exchange for more than 1,200 Palestinian prisoners, and an escalation in aid sent to the Gaza Strip, according to local media. A Hamas official stated the proposal favoured the Israeli position and failed to meet key demands, most notably a complete end to the war and the humanitarian crisis it has caused in Gaza. Meanwhile, Israel has continued its bombardment of the Strip overnight, issuing forced displacement orders for 5 more areas in northern Gaza on Friday morning. Palestinians are also still struggling to access aid as chaos erupts at food distribution sites amid reports of Israeli smoke bombs and gunfire. While in Tel Aviv, anti-government protesters descended on Ben Gurion Boulevard, calling for the release of all hostages from Gaza and an end to the war.
At least 11 people, including 2 children, have been injured in Ukraine after a wave of missile and drone strikes hit the city of Kharkiv and the nearby region, officials said on Friday. They reported a major fire at a municipal transport enterprise, which extended to surrounding residential buildings. Also overnight, a series of Russian drone attacks on the Odessa region destroyed a branch of Ukraine's main postal operator. No injuries were reported in the attack, which triggered a fire covering over 300 square meters and damaged a number of lorries within the facility. Ukraine says it repelled a total of 173 Russian attacks over multiple fronts in Russia's Kursk Oblast region. The fiercest fighting was in Pokrovsk, where Ukrainian forces halted 66 assaults.
From Belgium to Denmark, Bangladesh to Egypt, nuclear power is making a comeback. Under the motto, "Let's talk nuclear," hundreds of delegates from all across the globe gathered in Vienna this week at the UN's nuclear watchdog, the IAEA. The aim? Boost expertise and calm public fears on what advocates say is the most climate-friendly fuel.
At the IAEA, we're seeing a number of member states that have expressed interest in nuclear power for several reasons related to growing energy demands, climate change, and other national considerations.
But here in Austria, the home of the IAEA, a referendum in the 70s deemed the public anti-nuclear, meaning this gigantic power plant that cost €1 billion to build is now merely an attraction, and in fact the best place in Europe to study nuclear power.
This facility was never used. Since 1986 they sold some parts, so we're not 100% fully equipped, and of course not able to operate. So technically not able to operate anymore. Not only because some parts are missing, but also because this facility is more than 40 years old. doesn't meet today's standards. And most important of all, we have a constitutional law in Austria which forbids the operation of a nuclear power plant.
Visitors get a fascinating peek inside the plant, the only one in the world that was built but never operational. The 1,000 rooms offer unique insights into nuclear technology and safety systems. Today, the site has become a sort of Homer Simpson-themed attraction park. 15,000 people visit the site per year. And this August, thousands of techno fans from all across this country and beyond will be gathering here for a gigantic rave. Maeve McMahon for Euronews in Sventendorf, Austria.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay.
French President Emmanuel Macron called the newly signed deal between France and Singapore a tangible roadmap to innovate together. He added that the two nations' defense cooperation, joint support of multilateralism, and joint investment in breakthrough technologies all are paving the way for future generations.
The first step on this path is clearly this global strategic partnership that we have signed. Because this is not just a statement of intent. It is a tangible roadmap to invent together in the fields of artificial intelligence, quantum tech, civil nuclear energy, education, cultural creation.
The French leader's visit to Singapore marks the last leg of his Southeast Asia tour, where he focused on strengthening regional ties and boosting defense and trade cooperation. Him and other world leaders, diplomats and top defense officials, including U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, are attending Asia's top security summit over the weekend. The annual Shangri-La dialogue will focus on China's growing assertiveness, the impact of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, flare-ups of conflicts in Asia, and Trump's sweeping tariffs. Italy and Kazakhstan have signed a set of deals worth €4 billion during a visit by Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni to Astana. The agreements were across a variety of sectors, including oil and gas, renewable energy, and water management. Speaking at the Astana International Forum, Meloni emphasized the importance of deepening ties between the two nations.
We must have the courage to look beyond our geographical boundaries and pave new paths. Starting, of course, with what already unites us and makes our relationship extremely strong. I'm thinking of the energy sector, where our cooperation can help make a difference. I'm also referring to critical raw materials, where our collaboration aims to generate shared benefits and mutual opportunities.
Before heading to Kazakhstan, Meloni visited Uzbekistan for the first leg of her Central Asia trip, where she signed new trade agreements for investment in the country.
The right to die, assisted suicide, euthanasia. The variability of terms used in Europe to describe the end of life indicates the difficulty of framing it in law. On Tuesday, France took a step towards legalizing assisted dying by passing the first reading of a new bill. In the European Union, 5 member countries allow active euthanasia. While each country has its own definition and framework, these legalizations are based on identical principles.
Tout d'abord, la demande volontaire réitérée sans pression extérieure d'un patient qui doit être compétent et qui est atteint d'une affection médicale grave et incurable, qu'elle soit d'ordre pathologique ou accidentelle, affection médicale qui lui cause des souffrances inapaisables, qu'elles soient d'ordre physique ou psychique.
The approach to euthanasia seems to have evolved over the years in countries that allow it, giving citizens and medical professionals time to adapt to the law. In 2023, nearly 10,000 euthanasia cases were reported in the Netherlands, around 3,500 in Belgium, and 334 in Spain. Other countries have opted for a different approach to the end of life. Austria and Germany authorise assisted suicide. In this case, it is the patient who performs the end-of-life act, but the product is still provided by medical staff or a third party. In Italy, euthanasia is forbidden, but the courts have opened the way to assisted suicide, although there is no legal framework.
Marco Cappato a accompagné des patients en Suisse et à son retour, il se dénonçait auprès des autorités. Le résultat, c'est qu'on a une décision de la Cour suprême en Italie qui, en quelque sorte, valide l'assistance au suicide dans des conditions relativement strictes. Mais entre-temps, le Parlement n'a pas légiféré.
Euthanasia is banned in several European Union countries, including Poland, Bulgaria, Cyprus and Malta. It is also banned in Ireland, but end-of-life legislation is currently under discussion there.
Evacuations of both residents and animals continue following the collapse of the Birch Glacier in Switzerland's southern Lurchental Valley. Homes have been flooded and debris scattered around the village of Blatten, 90% of which has reportedly been destroyed. Focus has now shifted to the safety of those living near the Lonza River, which the regional government warns could flood as a result of dammed water flows caused by debris.
J'ai pas dormi beaucoup non plus cette nuit. On attendait tout le temps, arrive quelque chose, il faut partir.
Authorities had evacuated around 300 people as well as livestock from Blatten village as a precaution earlier this month. But one man remains missing following the incident.